This one out of the United Nations. 128 countries voting overwhelmingly to condemn President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, despite threats from the United States to pull funding from the world body. Among the countries that voted in favor are many traditional U.S. allies, including the United Kingdom and France. The vote came after strong warnings from U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley. Let's watch.
The United States will remember this day in which it was singled out for attack in the General Assembly for the very act of exercising our right as a sovereign nation. We will remember it when we are called upon to once again make the world's largest contribution to the United Nations.
Here with me now to discuss Danny Danon. He is the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. And Danny, you had a pretty rough day there. You were on fire. You, of course, spoke before the vote, and some of the things you said is you referred to the UN as a collection of hypocrites and puppets.
It was a tough day, Charles.
Yeah.
But we are very happy that we have a good friend like Ambassador Haley. We are very proud of the decision of the president. And I'm used to see bashing at the UN of Israel. But today we saw bashing of Israel and the United States. There's a lot of hypocrisy in the UN, and we think we should change that. Jerusalem has been the capital of the state of Israel. It will be the capital of the state of Israel. King David decided that it will be the capital 3,000 years ago. So coming to the UN and hearing all those lies and incitement, it is unacceptable. The Prime Minister called it a house of lies.
Some are saying that while President Trump called on Jerusalem to be the capital, this is more of a political decision, whereas your argument is steeped more in in a religious belief. Are those two intertwined, or were they wrong there?
Well, first, when you read the Bible, 660 times the word Jerusalem is mentioned in the Jewish Bible. You have a historical connection. Today I showed a coin which is dated 67 AD, and it showed the connection between the Jewish people and Jerusalem. So seeing the resolutions at the UN, it doesn't make any sense. President Trump made a promise during his campaign, and we are very happy that he announced that the embassy will move to Jerusalem. By the way, any country can decide where to put its embassy. So how come the UN is condemning the U.S. for taking such a decision?
Right. There's no way that they should have any role in where America puts its embassies or it declares its where it wants to locate them. We agree on that. There's no doubt about that. What bothers me, and you hit on this, is that this is a decision that the United States government made a very long time ago, but no president had the guts to actually move on it.
And look what happened. Nothing happened. It reminds me of what happened with President Truman back in 1948. When Israel was established, people threatened President Truman, don't do it. It's too dangerous. The timing is not right. He took a bold decision. Many countries followed him. And 70 years later, we have a beautiful country, a strong democracy in the Middle East. We will see other countries following the U.S. And actually today...
You believe eventually that's going to happen?
I'm optimistic about what happened today.
Really?
Because 65 countries decided not to join the choir and to condemn Israel and the U.S. 65 countries either abstained or didn't show up or oppose this resolution. And I believe that we will see other countries that will move their embassies to Jerusalem.
Which country is disappointing you the most?
Well, mainly the European countries. Because, you know, they understand the challenges that we are facing, fighting radical Islam. They know that we are a strong democracy. Jerusalem is open to everybody. If you are Muslim, Jew, Christian, you can pray wherever you want, how much you want. They know that, and still they join the incitement of the Palestinians. And today I call them puppets, because that's exactly what happened. The Palestinians decide to condemn Israel,
so, Danny,
they join them immediately.
Why are these European countries, knowing the history of Europe, knowing the history of Israel, knowing what's happening at this very moment, why are they so sympathetic to the cries of the Palestinians? And you know, obviously, there would be a certain level of sympathy, but to your point, you know, take almost their marching orders from them while ignoring the pleas of Israel.
They think that by doing so, they will promote the peace process. But it doesn't work. In the last 20 years, they try to satisfy the Palestinians. And instead of pushing them to negotiate with us directly, they allow them to come to the UN to pass ridiculous resolutions, empty resolutions. It's not going to change the reality. They should call them to come back to negotiate directly with Israel.
You talked about all the major faiths being able to worship in Jerusalem. Could it mitigate some of this anxiety, exactly what part of the city the United States eventually puts its embassy? Could that help?
We consider Jerusalem to be the united capital of Israel, period. The president didn't say that. The president said that he will move the embassy to Jerusalem. It will not be to the eastern part of Jerusalem, it will be to the western part. And by the way, anybody knows that the western part of Jerusalem will be forever under Israel's sovereignty. Even the Palestinians acknowledge that. So why to condemn the president? It's only a distraction for not going back to the negotiations.
Let's talk about ultimately some form of peace. You talked about the process. It started and failed many times. They've given out awards, Nobel prizes for it, and yet we're not here. President Trump said he would support a two-state solution if both sides agreed. Is that still something of a pipe dream? Can it ever actually be done?
First of all, Charles, I think that the decision of the president will support the peace process. It actually was a reality check for the Palestinians, for the Europeans. Wake up. For the last 20 years, you tried everything. It didn't work. Let's try something else. So I think it's a positive step. We are open to negotiate. We proved in the past that we can make peace. We did it with the Jordanians, with the Egyptians. But in order to do that, you need to negotiate directly, not to come to the Security Council, to the General Assembly, and to pass all those ridiculous, shameful resolutions.
Ambassador Danon, thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time.